Hey, geeks! In this week's science video, we are going to talk about an innovative method of making clothes out of fruit peels. So let's dive right into it. Clothes are a necessity for most people around the world. However, the production of clothes is incredibly damaging to our planet. Conventional cotton uses 11% of the world's pesticides and 20% of the world's water. Polyester is made with nasty petroleum chemicals, which over time break down into even nastier chemicals, called persistent organic pollutants that accumulate in our bodies. Rayon is often made with harmful chemicals such as carbon disulfide, which is toxic to humans and animals. Nylon is also made with petroleum chemicals and, if not properly disposed of, can cause soil and water pollution. And lastly, spandex or rayon is made with nasty petroleum chemicals once again, which contribute to global warming. As you can see, there are some issues with the way that we currently make our clothes. But what if there was a more sustainable way to produce textiles? Well, enter fruit waste. A recent paper published in the journal Axe Sustainable Chemistry and Engineering describes how researchers found a way to make eco-friendly fibers from fruit peels and other plant waste. The first step in their process was to collect their raw materials. They collected orange peels, banana peels, coffee grounds, and seeds from the fruit of the noni or vomit fruit tree. If you have ever seen an orange, you know exactly what an orange peel looks like. But what do the other peels look like? Well, a banana peel has an outer brown skin that is relatively easy to remove to get to the inner white, soft, and slimy peel. The soft inner part of the peel is what they used for their research. As for vomit fruit, these are small round fruits that grow on trees in Southeast Asia and India. The peels of these fruits are quite slimy and look like cucumbers or avocados. Next, the team cleaned these peels by removing any dirt, rinsing them with water, then drying them out overnight. After the peels were dry, they ground them up into a powder. Now you might be asking yourself, why did they turn the peels into a powder? Well, in order to isolate the cellulose from the rest of the plant matter, they had to pulverize the peels to get the job done. They used a technique called ball milling, where they ground the peels into a powder using a specific type of mechanical alloying. This works by agitating the mixture of dried and ground peels at high speed in a steel or ceramic jar with balls of the same material inside. The high speed and repeated impacts of the balls break down the bonds between molecules and allows the cellulose to be isolated. Once they had isolated the cellulose from each type of fruit, they dyed the samples different colors to see how well the dye took to the material. They found that the orange and banana peels took the dye well, but the vomit fruit peel did untake the dye as well as the others. That is likely because the outer cuticle layer of the vom fruit peel is too thick and waxy for the dye to penetrate. However, they found that they could overcome this problem by adding sodium hydroxide or lye to the mix. Lye is a strong base which would help break down the waxy cuticle and allow the dye to reach the cellulose underneath. In fact, they found that this combination made the vomit fruit peel take the dye better than the other peels. So now they had dyed plant-based fabric, but it was time to turn it into something wearable. To do that, they needed to turn the dyed powders into long, continuous fibers. To do so, they dissolved the dyed cellulose in a solution of lithium chloride and N-dimethyl acetamide, otherwise known as D. When they poured the solution onto a flat surface, the liquid evaporated, leaving behind a solid film. Then they rolled the film up tightly and put it under a press which applied heat and pressure. This process is similar to how plastic is turned into sheets and is called wet spinning. When the films were removed from the press, they looked like long strips of rayon. These strips were then cut into threads, which were woven into small samples of fabric. And just like that, they created a plant-based fabric from fruit peels. But how does this fabric compare to conventional fabrics? They tested the strength of the fibers by subjecting them to stress until they broke. They found that the vomit fruit fibers were stronger than cotton and linen, but weaker than hemp and bamboo. Additionally, they found that the fibers were naturally antimicrobial since they used no harsh chemicals during the manufacturing process. They also found that the fabric was biodegradable. They buried the fabric in soil for 6 months and found that it had completely decomposed. As for the actual dyes used on the fabric, they used 3 different types of natural dyes: avocado seeds, onion skins, and turmeric root. Each gave the fabric a different color. Avocado seed gave a dark blue color, onion skin gave a yellow color, and turmeric gave an orange color. These dyes were chosen because they are all readily available and non-toxic. Additionally, they are all biodegradable, meaning that they will break down over time and not harm the environment. So it seems that this new fruit-based textile is stronger than cotton, biodegradable, antimicrobial, and made out of waste products, which makes it a great alternative to conventional fabrics. However, there is still a long way to go before this product hits the mainstream. The main reason being that the yield of these fibers is very low. On average, only 8% of the weight of the fruit peel turned into usable fiber. Additionally, the whole process of turning fruit peels into clothing is laborious and time-consuming, which adds to the cost. Another drawback of this study is that the researchers only created very small samples of fabric. They were not able to create anything larger than a 10 by 10 centimeter square. If they want to scale up their production, they will need to find a way to improve the yield of their fibers and develop a way to make larger samples of fabric. It may also be beneficial for them to explore using other types of fruit peels, as well as other plant materials. Lastly, it is important to keep in mind that just because something is biodegradable does not mean that it is good for the environment. For example, if left untreated, hemp will break down over time, but it can take several years. Also, the growing of hemp requires a lot of resources and can potentially cause soil erosion, habitat loss, and water pollution. Bamboo, on the other hand, grows very quickly and does not require pesticides or irrigation. But the processing of bamboo into rayon is very harsh and uses lots of toxic chemicals. So as you can see, there are pros and cons to each material. If you ask me, I think that this is a great idea. And I hope that one day we can make clothes out of fruit peels. Not only would this reduce the amount of waste going to landfills, but it would also reduce the demand for fossil fuels and pesticides. It would also create jobs in rural areas where fruit processing facilities could be set up. Now, there are a few companies that are already doing this, such as Orange Fiber, which creates silk-like fabrics from citrus peels, and Pangaya, which creates vegan leather from mushroom roots. So what do you think about this technology? Would you ever wear clothes made out of fruit peels? Let me know in the comments section below. Research is from the University of Malaya and the Institute of Tropical Forestry and Forest Products in Malaysia conducted this study. You can find more information in the description below. This is your host, and if you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you want to watch more videos like this, click the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.